Okay, so we're pulling the S63 out of the X6M. Now, a lot of you guys want to see this video. We just got a pretty good start on it. So on top, all we done was take out all the cowling, all the braces. Get Philip stop smashing the camera on the hood. All this stuff up in here. And we just slipped the fan out. Just kind of prepping up everything on top. We're still going to have to unplug the wiring harness, which should be fairly easy, and coolant lines and this and that. But we have the downpipes off. We have a lot of the complex stuff off already. We're going to lift it up here in just 1 second and show you. And then we need to also come in here and probably unplug all the lines, go to the cooled intercoolers, the water air intercoolers, and things like that. The only thing we found so far is a lot of oil leaks, and hopefully that'll reveal themselves once we get a little further into it. But let's lift it up. Let's show you what's going on. Just to give you a rundown of what's going on underneath this thing. On these, they have to come out. The engine has to come out the bottom. So on this one, it'll be engine and transmission. Now our cart's not really big, our hydraulic cart to let this down on, but it's big enough to do this. And you can see the oil. I'll let Philip get you in over here. The amount of oil running down these pipes is all the way back to the middle of the car. The amount of oil leaking is pretty significant up in here for sure. And everything's from the very top, valve cover gaskets. The turbo oil leak on this side looks like it might be a turbo oil feed line. Something is going on there. Well, we did drain the oil in this thing. Everything looked good. The oil was old, and he said he paid the shop to change it. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but it's very gassy smelling. Our oil cooler lays flat. We'll let Philip get you in here. Maybe from the front would be better. Oil cooler lays flat right here. This is going to have to be replaced. No matter what, come hell or high water, this will not be left in the car, because what will happen, that'll trap little fragments of rod bearing crap in there and blow up the new engine. We don't want to do that. So we don't know if this engine's good for sure or not. I don't think it threw a rod yet. Obviously, it just showed up here on a trailer, so we don't know, right? And I'm trying to get the right angle here. There's so many lights in this shop, it's hard to get the right angle, right? So essentially what we're going to do now is we've already made sure the CV axles are free. That's all I was really worried about, was not be able to get those out, and we had to take the hub out and press them out in the big press. Usually that's what happens. We got lucky, both these are free and good to go. And you can see the size of the brake caliper. These are not Brembo calipers, but they're huge, but the brake pad's normal size, which is kind of hilarious. Obviously the rotor is massive, but it's not drilled and slotted. It just doesn't have, they're really good brakes. They're not the big Brembos like on the G-Wagon and stuff, or even on the Porsche. It's just a little bit different of a setup. And then, so what we've been working on last night before we quit on it, you can see up here how rusty, and this is a Chicago car, how rusty all the bolts are. So we'll spray all that and make sure all that's correct. But we'll take this control arm off, this one. Depends on how far we want to go with it, really. This thing is set up to let the transmission, engine, this whole subframe down in one go. Our issue for doing that is our hydraulic table is not that big to easily balance all that stuff on it. And that's the next thing. So we gotta I need to look some more videos up. We could do it either way. I'm just trying to think what's gonna be the best way to put it back in the car. And our goal right now is to get the engine out, get it on the stand, put the subframe back in this thing, and we're gonna pull this thing outside, because we have so many other cars that are sitting outside in the snow right now, and this thing does not need to be in here when we're not working on it. It's gonna take us probably a good 3 weeks to get all the parts here to reassemble this thing, I would say. Hopefully I'm wrong on that, but that's more than likely the case. We've already pulled out, you know, at this stage in the game, we're not really trying to remove the engine. We're just trying to prep it for removal. We already pulled out the front drive shaft. our downpipes, where are those at? I don't want to touch that crap. It's super, super oily. We got both the downpipes off, but there was no oil inside the pipe. It was on the outside, like stuff leaking down. So we'll be back here in a couple seconds for you guys, and we'll get this thing out of the car. Stay tuned. Here's where we're at with it. And we're wanting to upload the video with us taking the engine out. That may not be the case on this video though. We have the whole front end taken apart, and our idea there for a while was, well, let's take the front end apart. Let's take it out with a cherry picker. So we don't have the $6,000 BMW hydraulic table. We have a $350 Harbor Freight table. It's not long enough to set the subframe, the engine, the tranny all down together. Good thing we did take that apart, because all the radiators, let's see if I can do this without spilling crap everywhere. All the radiators were so stopped up, full of crap, and just a total freaking disaster. So we have the engine radiator, we have the AC condenser. When I broke the lines, because we would have to do that no matter what. Also, the little radiator behind here is the radiator for the turbo. The turbos have their own cooling system, right? So, oh my God. And then over here on the cart, we have the tranny cooler, and underneath, or right here, is a secondary radiator for the turbos. And those were all, especially the turbo one, was just packed full of leaves and dirt and crap, and a real issue. So we pulled the CV axles out on this one. The CV axles run through the bottom of the engine, and I cannot believe the ball joints in this thing are just totally freaking shot. Sway bar links are totally gone. This thing, a few years in Chicago, really took a hard toll on this thing. And like, everything's fixable. It's just the amount of money is gonna be crazy for this build. We have the oil coolers right here. We're probably gonna throw that away and replace that. A lot of these lines up here don't look too bad. You can see where it's been leaking coolant up here. You can see the residue. At 114,000 miles, guys, legitimately, all these hoses, all these coolant hoses should be replaced, and there's a lot of them. Not as many as the yellow Porsche though, but there's a lot of them. So our angle right now at this, it's like, getting it out is easy. Putting it back in may be a problem if you don't do it correctly. So our angle right now is to go to Harbor Freight to get the stand-up transmission jack, pull the transmission and the transfer case, which is about 3 foot long, pull that totally out. Once we do that, then we could go ahead and use our hydraulic table to lower the engine, the subframe out. I think we'll have it. Our hydraulic table is only 32 or 34 inches long, and this is like 5 foot long. So the math just doesn't add up on it at all. We have the exhaust off. We wouldn't have had to take it all the way off to get the drive shaft and everything out, and all the tin pieces, all the aluminum pieces. We just dropped it down. We have enough people here to easily do it. Our goal is right now to get this thing out and get on the engine stand and then start getting the parts. That all being said, our other goal is to get the engine out of this thing, this kind of finger the subframe back in so we can put the wheels back on and pull this thing out of the shop, because they have a bunch of other cars that need to come in the shop. This thing is 100% stuck on the lift for today and probably tomorrow. But you see here, all the CV axles are out. All the bolts are very rusty. But I think all that stuff should be okay. We'll need at least one CV axle. Probably should go ahead and put a set in it. That is not a cheap venture either. We'll have to try to source all that stuff. Just tons of stuff. Like, all this stuff needs to be cleaned. So when we put it back together, there's no overheating problems. There's, the turbos are nice and cool. We do not know the state of the turbos at this point in time. And we also do not know if it's knocking. We don't know if it's already throwing a rod. There's no way to tell. There is one severe oil leak on this passenger side up high. We can't see where it's coming from. Hopefully it's not a hole in the block. If that's the case, we must have a new engine. If that is not the case, we could probably rebuild this. We'll put a question mark by that. Depends on how available the crankshaft is at that point in time. We can't go buy the crankshaft now when it's available because we have to get it out. We have to take it apart and make sure it's even rebuildable. And like I said, a reman engine for this is about $8,000. And then we think just to build this engine back to normal is going to be about $5,000. Here's the catch though. If you go out and spend $8,000 on an engine, it's not just that. It's also control arms, all these hoses, water pump, thermostat. There's also a coolant block plate on the back we got to replace, got to do. There is tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff. And all that stuff costs 50 or 70 or $100. And you guys know from watching us build the M5, watching us build the yellow Porsche, that adds up to an extreme amount of money very quickly. Has me a little bit worried since it's not my car, that's going to be okay. But this is the current status of it. We're hoping to post a video having the engine out, but it's not. We just have to wait. Everything is a waiting game, right? Like we have G-Wagon parts coming in tomorrow. We have to go to Mercedes dealer, so we're trying to piggyback that trip to the city with getting the transmission jack. And this weekend, hopefully we can finish this up. Philip's not going to be here this weekend, but if we do pull it out this weekend, we will definitely set up the GoPro 360 or something to get some footage of dropping it down, especially if something goes wrong, like with the Porsche engine that falls out or something. But it should not be the case. Another issue we had, I think we talked about in the last clip, we cannot put our engine cradle, which is right here on the floor, on top of this. This thing has plastic strut towers. And the hood's plastic, all the fenders are plastic, it's like a whole plastic car. And that will not support, those strut towers will not support the engine in that type of way. Not the one we have anyway. There's like a 3 or 4 legger that you can use on it. But without spending $5,000 on something, we just can't, this doesn't make sense for this, right? So that's the current state. Everything is totally good, but it's annoying because now we got to wait another day. Just the way it is. We're just kind of working on this slowly after still recovering from COVID. My hand's still jacked up. Just kind of taking it slow, not getting too crazy with it. And we'll be back, I guess, probably Monday. We're going to post a video having the engine out. We'll know a lot more about the state of the turbos by then. That's another situation we just don't know. But as we could tell this minute, this car has 0 maintenance done at 114K. That's why it needs so much. That's why it's at this state. But stay tuned for this series. It should be very interesting to see what the end result is and to watch us put all back together and drive it down the road. So that's it, guys. See you again Monday with another video.